and ask for help. Ask for help through the friends from the Creator that He, instead of the will to receive. We will reveal the will grow the will to bestow on top of the will to receive. We got confidence from Rav in relating everything to the Creator, even the difficult things that are revealed. It's a true opportunity and a precise force that wants to soften ourselves more and more towards one another and to feel that we're completely dependent on the upper light. It can strengthen ourselves towards a great impression. Yes, when we help each other in advertising between us, the wish. But everything comes from the Creator, and it's actually the war against the Creator that He wages in order to advance towards the goal. So, we want to get closer to the force of the quality of bestow and love. 4 years have passed, and the war is continuing. And as long as we didn't manage to move the war inwards within us, as we heard that the war is the permanent state we have against the evil inclination that needs to continue until the final correction. So as long as that doesn't happen, and that's our work in the 10, this needs to be in relation with that. The wars will continue also on the outside, also in externality. We will see this with the bodies. The Creator shows us all kinds of pictures about on the friends, how the friends look like too, and it gives us all kinds of feelings from within towards the friends. And that's always an exercise. It starts with separation and also the effort of each and every one of us, how to cover the crimes with love. And it's the perpetual war until the end of correction. What we see outside of the group and inside, our power is in prayer and the connection and request. That's what the friends exist for. So we will be able to demand through them to the Creator. That's called one will help his friend, where we exist for one another. The Creator put us as one unit, for us to be able to ask and demand for the friends, for the Creator to help, demand for them. Our power is in the request, in the prayer. Our whole way to advance, our possibility to advance is on top of the world to receive, and it's only going to grow, and the war against it will be perpetual until the end of correction. And so we have to really develop hatred towards it, and that hatred also comes from above by the light. However, it comes through our efforts for connection. We need to come to hate separation between us in the desire to receive in order to receive to reach love of friends. We've been privileged with preparing this lesson preparation throughout the week in the 10. We met several times, and from the connection between us, we chose the topic of the purpose of the lesson, the purpose of the study. As we learned, we don't need to become wise, accumulate knowledge. We only need to remember that the goal of the study is to open our hearts and to ask for everyone a change towards the intention to bestow. This is how we will awaken the light that reforms upon us, that will correct our will to receive, connect us as one man with one heart. And if during this study we'll try to think of the connection between us and the greatness of the friends, the greatness of the Creator, then the study will truly work on us, and we will be rewarded with studying. And this is how we can bring contentment to the Creator and become one where the vessel, where the Creator appears in the connection between us quickly and bring peace upon all of us. Amen. We know the Kabbalists always guide us, the direction for the lesson, the intention for the lesson. How do I prepare myself for it? That's the most important. We just got out of our beds, and we must aim ourselves into the lesson, how we wish to enter it. So let's read from Rav's words. He advises us to enter the lesson. Let's listen, then enter this and ask those questions ourselves. Before you have to read except number 1. Question from a student. How does studying the sources calibrates our inner vessels and helps us pray from the bottom of the heart? The calibration of the heart happens because in these sources, just as in your heart, lies the Creator. And if you calibrate yourselves to the sources and to your entire heart, then you're practically connecting with the Creator. We just have to ask Him for that, and to ask, it's possible so that you'll be aimed at that, so that from your own emotion you can build the connection with Him, and then everything's open before you just ask Him. Remember, we named ourselves how to read the sources, and I will hear Rob's advice on how to enter the lesson. Before you enter the group, before you come to the group in the morning, let's say you aim yourself. Why are you coming? Here, why, what, for what are you yearning? For what do you want from the Creator? From the group, for yourself. In what way do you want to see yourself? After the lesson, after the meeting, after the gathering, after our meal. In what form and in what way do you want to see yourself? Only in this way can you begin your work with the group. The important thing is to continue and ask, and try nevertheless to ask yourself why. I'm coming to the lesson, to the group, to connect with them. What do I want from them? The deeper question is, what can I give them? What are you giving them each and every moment? And what are you yearning to receive each and every moment from them? So friends, please aim us with those internal workshop questions, how to prepare ourselves for the lesson. Silent workshop. What are you yearning for in the lesson? What are you yearning for in the lesson? Silent workshop. What can you give to the friends in the lesson? Again, what can you give the friends in the lesson? Silent workshop. In what form would you like to see yourself after the lesson? Again, what form would you like to see yourself after the lesson? After we thought about it personally, we're going to go into the most powerful, intense thing there is, which is reading together Rabbash. Let's prepare our hearts to enter this source. It's the source of light. We all know what great light is contained in that reading. So, let's enter this action as a 10 and truly want to absorb this internality that Rabbash wants to pass on to us. So silently, with a soft aimed heart, we're entering the lesson and reading. Darash, Shalom. Hello dear friends. In the first part of the lesson, we're going to connect to a lesson with Ari from May 5th, 2002, based on the article What the Speech of Shabbat Must Not Be is the Speech of a Weekday in the Work. You can find it in Writings of Rabbash Volume 2. We'll read the article together in the 10. You have 35 minutes. We plans that finish ahead of time are invited to start a workshop on the main principles from the article. So we'll start from the Rise of Rabbash Volume 2. Why? The speech of Shabbat must not be as the speech of a weekday in the work. It is written in the Zohar, the Lord will fight for you while you keep silent. Rabbi Aber started, if because of the Sabbath you turn your foot from doing what you wish and from speaking words, so your speech of the Sabbath will not be as the speech of a weekday. Each day one must show a deed and evoke awakening below from what he should evoke. However, on Sabbath, one should awaken only in the words of the Creator in the holiness of the day, and not on anything else, since on Sabbath there is no need for an awakening from below. Come and see here, when Pharaoh drew near to make war with Israel, at that time the Creator did not want Israel to evoke an awakening from below at all, since there was an awakening from above. As it is written, the Lord will fight for you and you will keep silent. Since the name of mercies must awaken on them because an awakening from below would only activate judgment, we should understand the adjacency of the Lord will fight for you in Shabbat, the Sabbath, and why each day we need an awakening from below, but on Shabbat we do not need it, because on Shabbat there is only an awakening from above. We should also understand what it means that on Shabbat we should engage only in the words of the Creator and the sacredness of the day. It is known that there are two things before us. One, the lack, which is yearning. Without a lack, a person cannot feel pleasure, even if this thing is the most important thing in the world. If he has no lack for the matter, although he can receive it, but not enjoy it, since this depends on the measure of his yearning for it. Hence, we have a time of lack, and then it is the time to receive more lack each time. That is where he feels a lack. He goes to fill the lack. If it is hard for him to obtain the thing, do not say that he tried in vain to obtain it, but rather that he did obtain something. He obtained a vessel called yearning. In other words, had he obtained the filling right away, the filling would not be regarded as filling with regard to pleasure, which is the main purpose, as we learned that the purpose of creation was his desire to do good to his creations, meaning that they will receive the light and pleasure. It follows that if a person receives something without effort, meaning that he did not have the time to obtain the vessel to receive the pleasure called yearning, the pleasure he should receive from it, the filling cannot yield the pleasure, because he has no vessel to receive the pleasure. For the vessel to receive the pleasure is called yearning, and in order to receive yearning for something, it depends on time, meaning time for feeling the lack. It follows that when a person prays to the Creator to satisfy his need, this too depends on the amount of time he has been praying for the Creator to satisfy his lack. For this reason, the Creator first helps him by the growing of the vessel within him called a vessel of yearning, meaning that the Creator hears his prayer, and the reason why a person does not receive the filling for his pray right away, he should say that this is not so, but that the Creator does hear his prayer and is increasing the yearning within him, so he will have a real vessel to feel the pleasure. It follows that if he were to receive what he wants right away, he would not be able to enjoy because of the lack of yearning. By this we shall understand what our sages said: to the wicked the evil inclination seems like a hair's breadth, and to the righteous like a high mountain. However, first we must understand when we speak in terms of the work. What does it in terms of the work mean? The thing is that there are two manners in observing. One doing which is regarded as action. He learns dua. He observes mitzvot in all their details and precisions, and there's nothing to add to this. Indeed, in terms of actions, he is considered righteous. To work, which is the work in the heart. In the words of our sages, a prayer is usually called work, for prayer is called work in the heart, which is an intention, meaning the intention of the heart. That is, a person should aim while observing. Why he is observing, whether for his own sake or does he aim for the sake of the Creator. For this reason, we should discern between righteous and wicked in terms of the action aright, and righteous and wicked in terms of the intention in terms of the actions. The righteous are the orthodox, and the wicked are the secular. But with respect to the intention, righteous and wicked go by a completely different order. In other words, in terms of the action, both are righteous, but with regard to the intention, there is a difference. Righteous are those who work for the Creator, and wicked are those who work for themselves. However, in terms of the work, both are righteous. When we want to work, walk in the work, meaning with the aim of the heart to intend that all his work will be for the sake of the Creator, then begins the order of the work, that is the wicked in his heart, which are called will to receive for oneself. Resist working for the sake of the Creator. However, God has made them one opposite the other, meaning that to the extent that he wants to walk on the path of truth, to that extent the truth about the evil within him appears. When one has a small desire to walk on the path of truth, meaning to do everything for the sake of the Creator, his evil is small as well, since one opposite the other. In other words, to the extent of the kasher in him, so is the resistance to kasher. It follows that the more he advances in the work and wants to go more on the path of truth, the more the evil surfaces by not letting him cancel the evil, and the evil exerts to control more forcefully. It follows that anyone who is greater than his friend, his inclination is greater than him. Therefore, it follows that one who wants to be righteous, that his actions will be for the sake of the Creator. The evil grows within him. This is why they said to the righteous, the evil inclination seems like a high mountain. In other words, the evil ascends each time. High mountain means reflections. That is, he has had bad reflections, meaning that each time the bad thoughts increase and become a high mountain. But to the wicked, those who do not mind the intention to make it in order to bestow, but believe that they are working in lishma not for her sake, and from lishma they come to lishma for her sake, and rely on it, and say glory will finally come, meaning that only when they have a desire to aim for the Creator, they will certainly have the power to overcome and do everything for the sake of the Creator. Since their bad seems to them like a hair's breadth, meaning that it is not so difficult to aim, the reason is that their bad is not so great. As was said, their good is small, meaning the desire to do everything for the sake of the Creator is small. The proof of this is that they do not have such a need to begin this work, so the bad in them does not need to show the evil within and resist him. Therefore the evil inclination seems to them like a hair's breadth. This means that none of them is lying, but each speaks according to his feeling. Accordingly, we understand the meaning of extending the light and the meaning of extending the vessel. That is, we still do not have the key for reception of the light and pleasure, called yearning, since this depends on man's work, that specifically through the work there is development for this vessel, called lack and yearning. This vessel is acquired specifically through labour, meaning without labour it is impossible to obtain the vessel, meaning the need to acquire vessels of bestow. This means that the very obtainment of the vessels of bestow is already called light. That is, this is something that comes from above, called assistance from above. For obtainment of vessels of bestow, it is known that there are two discernments to make in the light. 1. To obtain vessels of bestow, meaning vessels, namely desires, which were previously outside of holiness, meaning that these desires could not be used in order to bestow. 2. This light is named after the vessels, since the light comes in order to correct the vessels. This is called light of aim posterior after the vessels, for the vessels are called posterior with respect to the light, and the light is called face in the work. This is called assistance from above. As it is said in the Zohar, he who comes to purify is aided, and it asks with what? The answer is with a holy soul. That is, he's given from above a light. That is called soul, and this light purifies the person, so it will have the strength to bestow upon the upper one. For as the light comes from the giver, so this light gives one strength to be able to work in order to bestow. It follows that in the order of the work, we should discern the following. State 1. When a person awakens to emerge from what he has from his upbringing, he feels that he cannot be drawn to the general public who engage in Torah and commandments with the same understanding they had when they began to observe Torah and commandments. This understanding and feeling have been going on for them for a long time, but they are not making any progress in Torah and commandments, except in quantity. But as for quality, meaning to have more of a feeling for the importance of Jia and commandment, they do not have it. They wonder how is it possible that there will be no progress in the quality of Torah and commandment, since it is written about Torah and commandment, for they are our lives and the length of our days. But in that sense they are not advancing whatsoever. Therefore they go to look for a place where they can obtain the progress in terms of the greatness and importance, that they will feel that they are our lives. State 2. When we begin to walk the path to achieve, for they are our lives. Our sages tell us that the advice to come to feel the life that is found in Torah is, as it's written, and to cling unto him. That is, cling unto his attributes. As he is merciful, so you are merciful. This means that as the Creator wants only to bestow, so man should come to such a degree where he wants all his actions to be only to bestow and not for his own sake. Here, in this second state, when he wants to ascend in degree and observe in order to bestow, he receives the first assistance when a person is notified that he is far from this quality called lishmer. In other words, although before he began the work of bestow, he knew that there was the matter of having to work is called for the sake of the Creator, and he believed in what our sages said, one should always engage in lishmer, since from lishmer he will come to lishmer. But it never occurred to him that in order to work, one needs a miracle from above, or it's impossible to emerge from the control of the will to receive for oneself. This is so because if a person has only a little bit of good, he cannot be given a lot of bad, for he will not be able to subdue it, and will immediately escape from this work. But when a person begins to work with energy in order to come to work in order to bestow, he is given according to his work a sensation and awareness how far he is from it. It follows that the first assistance he receives is the revelation of the evil in him. This is called hardening of the heart, as it is written, for I have hardened his heart. This is regarded as obtaining the of Kadasher is called panim, and panim is considered something that illuminates, as he says. Introduction to the study of tests, item 47. We must first understand what is the meaning of the face of the Creator, about which the writing says, I will hide my face. It can be thought of as a person who sees his friend's face and knows him right away. However, when he sees him from behind, he is not certain of his identity. He might doubt, perhaps he is another and not his friend. So is the matter before us. Everyone knows and feels that the Creator is good, and that it is the conduct of the good to do good. Hence, when the Creator generously bestows upon his creations, it is considered that his face is revealed to his creations. Since then everyone knows and recognizes him, yet when he behaves with his creations the opposite from the above mentioned meaning, when they suffer afflictions and torments in his world, it is considered the of the Creator or his face, for his face, meaning his complete attribute of goodness, is entirely concealed from them. Therefore in that state, if he can accept the which is called exile, and does not run, but rather and they cried out to the Lord to deliver him from the exile, then he accepts the and says that it comes from the Creator. Hence he asks him that as he made him feel the taste of exile, so he will help him emerge from the exile. This is called the second state. State 3. This is the second assistance, when he receives assistance to obtain vessels of bestow, which is regarded as emerging from exile, where he was under the rule of self-love, and through the assistance from above, which is called that the Creator is giving him a soul. This light gives him the vessels of bestow. It is thus we learned that when the light of HMA, called the light of Ab, comes and brings out the vessels of Zanen and Nuker that fell into the clipot, into the shells, having been placed under the governance of receiving in order to receive, which is called a keeper, a shell. This light of Ab brings them out of the kipot, out of the shells, meaning it gives strength for these vessels to be corrected in order to bestow. And this is regarded as these vessels entering holiness, meaning that he can already use them in order to bestow, and this is called the exodus from Egypt. State 4. When he receives the light that addresses in vessels of bestow, at that time the 613 commandments are called 613 deposits, meaning he obtains a different flavour in each commandment, and this is the meaning of that in each commandment a special light is deposited which belongs to that mitzvah. This is similar to corporal pleasures, where there is a taste in meat, and there's another taste that is clothed in fish. Likewise in each commandment, there's a unique flavour. At that time a person comes to feel that the matter of Torah and commandments is, as in for they are our lives, and the length of our days. This is so because he has obtained from the Creator the vessels of bestow, called adhesion, equivalents of form, and in these vessels that the light and pleasure that was in the purpose of creation is clothed. And now we can understand what we asked about the adjacency of the Lord will fight for you, and you will keep silent, and Shabbat. Since the work on obtaining the vessels of bestow comes by obtaining the state of good loot, greatness or adulthood of the evil, as it is written, for I have hardened his heart, meaning the attainment of the bad. Then when the people of Israel came to a state where they saw that they could not escape from the bad, meaning they saw that the power of the bad was on all sides, and they did not see any salvation by nature, this is considered that the vessel of the bad has been completed. At that time comes state 5, and the Creator gives them the light, and this light reforms them. In other words, by this they emerge from the governance of evil, called vessels of self-reception, and are rewarded with vessels of bestow. This is the meaning of stand by and see the salvation of the Lord which he will do for you today. This means that once the vessel of the bad has been completed, there is room for disclosure of light on the part of the upper one. This is considered that the Creator is giving them a vessel, the vessels of the bestow. It follows that this work of increasing the bad is work that pertains to, or weekday non-holy, that is work, and are one and the same, meaning one discernment, as it is known that in holiness there is no work, since when a person has vessels of bestow he enjoys giving, but when he still does not have vessels of bestow, it is a great effort when he must give something without receiving anything in return, since it is against men's will to receive. This is why it is called and not holy, and this is why it is forbidden to work on Shabbat, since Shabbat is a time of rest and not of work. In other words, Shabbat indicates which is the time when through the Shabbat light shines because of the awakening from above. For this reason, one does not need to work on increasing the bad, as in hardening of the heart, since then is the time to speak only of what the Creator gives, and not to speak about man who must receive and think whether he's cleansed of self-love and must correct the work on the bad pertains to and not to holiness, since seeing the bad, the state he's in, pertains to man's work. That is, he looks at himself and wants to see a state of loneliness and how he should pray to the Creator and pay attention to whether he is advancing or to the contrary. In other words, when a person works, this is the time for a person to be seen, meaning to see his deficiencies, what he lacks. But when speaking of an awakening from above, meaning what the Creator does, we must only look at the Creator, meaning what he has to give, namely to see the meaning of the holy names, for each name indicates attainment. For example, when we look at a person and see that he is rich, the name of that person is wealth. And if we see that the person always heals the sick, then he is called healer of the sick. And therefore when speaking of the Creator, sometimes he's called who heals the sick, and sometimes nourishing and sustaining or redeems the captives, etc., all according to what we see that he gives. Therefore, on Shabbat, which is a time of awakening from above, which pertains to what the Creator gives, we must see and examine the names of the Creator. By this, we will understand the adjacency of what is written. The Lord will fight for ye, and ye will keep silent and Shabbat. It is so because then, when they were already complete in terms of the evil, when they saw that it was impossible to emerge from the bad in a natural way, but only by a miracle, this is regarded as the evil being completely sufficiently. At that time, the help from above should come to give them the light to complete the meaning that the vessels of reception will acquire the form of bestow. This does not pertain to man's work. This is why it is written, "You will keep silence," since now is the time when the Creator gives. Also on Shabbat, which is an awakening from above, we should speak only of what the Creator has. As he says that on Shabbat, we should speak only of the words of the Creator and the sanctity of the day, since Shabbat is an awakening from above. Conversely, on other days, meaning weekdays, there should be an awakening from below to invoke the lacks that are below among the created beings, and to ask that the Creator will satisfy their lacks. Now we can understand what we asked about the adjacency of "you will keep silent" and Shabbat. We will also understand why on weekdays we need an awakening from below, and on Shabbat it is only an awakening from above. Also we will understand what is so your speech of the Shabbat will not be as the speech of weekday, and we will also understand why on Shabbat we must speak only about the words of the Creator and the sanctity of the day. We will now move into a lesson with Ralph from May 5th, 2002. We just read an article. What is? The speech of Shabbat must not be as a speech of a weekday in the work from the rungs of the latter volume 2, page 133. The difference is, the weekday is called the state of work when we correct the souls. We gradually attain that state called Shabbat, where Shabbat is the end of correction, receiving the purpose of creation. And certainly it depends on the work throughout the week. He who did not labour on the eve of Shabbat, what will he eat on Shabbat? The work during the week is work in attaining the Shabbat. Filling advancement is when a person each moment in his life he weighs all of his actions, either aimed at the purpose of creation, which is the goal, and by that there is a difference between the spiritual plane and the corporal plane of a person. We exist in this world, and it appears to us that the actions and determine everything, and in truth, to sustain our beasts, we need actions. We need to plough the land and sow seeds, and then gather, harvest the crops, and perform the 39 different deeds, actions that are in general related to making bread, which is the food of men. And this is work in practice in action, just as animals and beasts collect everything that is already ready made, and they don't need to labour in preparing themselves food. Man has to labour in preparing himself food, something, since nothing, almost nothing, is prepared for him in nature. If we were on the level of beasts, we would eat as beasts. We would devour, gather all kinds of things as they are, and that's it. In this way, we have nothing from nature. We have some salt, water, some herbs, but in truth, everything we obtain to sustain ourselves, to enliven ourselves, we need to work to sweat for it. That's why it appears to us that the main thing is the action, the beastly action, physical action, and in truth, what belongs to attaining beastly life in this world. The intention is not important. We see we can invite over some foreign workers from Thailand or Malaysia, and they come and work, and we enjoy the fruit of their labor. That's it. Meaning the same is also in corporality. In keeping Torah and commandments, Torah and commandments, he who keeps it, we say that he is working is righteous, tzaddik. You see what he's doing, how he's dressed, and what he does. And the one who does not do it is called wicked. He doesn't do what needs to be done in this world, and these things are correct. With respect to existence in this world, it's called the still or inanimate degree of sanctity, meaning we evaluate a person righteous or wicked according to his actions. This is called corporality. Had we not have, let's say, hands, feet, mouth, we would not be able to keep these things, to observe them, to do them, meaning these are things that the body needs in order to sustain itself. In order to do these things, certainly there is a desire, there's an inner demand from within to do it for all kinds of reasons, but we evaluate it according to the action, and we have what we call spirituality, the spiritual plane or level of a person, which is not action according to or existence according to the body, but existence according to the point in the heart. A person has a point in the heart. From it, he can keep observed Torah and commandments spiritually. If he doesn't have a point in the heart, he is unable to do it. This is the spiritual part in a person, meaning with respect to the action, both in the action and both in the intention and the action of the action, meaning take anyone, tell him this is what you have to do, the Creator commanded it'll be good, or because he wants to do it, doesn't matter, but with respect to the action, meaning doing it from the heart, not from the point in the heart, but from the heart. Each one can do it, can repent, as we do those actions. Is called a Jew, is he's a normal person, right? That's what he is. Whereas with respect to the intention, for that you need to have connection with the Creator, which comes not from his heart, but from his point in the heart. And with these actions in the point in the heart, we evaluate the action of our person according to his intention, meaning because with respect to the point in the heart, the Creator doesn't consider any of our actions, but only the intention. The intention is the action. What does it mean? As it's written that he does, he will do all the deeds, themselves, all the actions, and theirs. No besides him, and everything comes from him, both in deeds and in intentions. Rather, there's the matter of the attitude of a person toward what's coming to him. In this, a person is evaluated with for us as righteous or wicked according to his intention. Is it toward the Creator in order to bestow, or it's still not aimed toward the Creator, and it's in order to receive? And in the actions everyone is righteous, as he writes. Why? In the actions everyone is righteous. He writes in page 135, therefore, we should distinguish between righteous and wicked from the point of view of the action, and righteous and wicked from the point of view of the intention, meaning from the point of view of the action. The righteous are called orthodox and wicked are called secular. However, from the point of view of righteous and wicked from the perspective of the intention, how do we measure righteous or wicked according to the intention? It's a totally different order. Robash writes, meaning from the point of view of the action, they're both righteous. What does it mean? They both act righteous, because both are activated from above, and there's no freedom for a person there. Rather, only with respect to the intention there's a difference. Righteous are those who work for the sake of the Creator, and wicked are those who work for their own sake. Whereas, from the point of view of the action in this case, they are both righteous. Righteous is the one who carries out the desire of the Creator, the will of the Creator. He's called righteous. Therefore, with respect to still, vegetative, animate, we have no questions. They're all righteous. Let's say the fish here in the aquarium, they are 100% righteous. Nature works on them, and they carry out the commandments of the end of nature 100%. Man cannot be 100% righteous. The Creator gave him a certain degree of freedom, and to that extent of freedom, person does what he wants. If he fails this measure of freedom with the will of the Creator according to his labor, according to his desire, is called righteous. If he doesn't do it, then he seemingly behaves the opposite, and it's called wicked. That's what he wants to say. You have any questions? So according to what you say, that the action of the intent in the intention is the attitude that the created being receives the intention from below. That's the action, the relation of the intention, the attitude toward the purpose of creation and the Creator, that a person activates. This attitude determines if spiritually you're righteous or wicked. That's it. He writes here in the beginning, in page 133, first paragraph below, that the awakening from below activated only judgment. What does it mean, only judgment? Judgment means limitation. As I read to you, there is the matter of this article. There are many similar articles, but here he seems to write directly to religious people who come more from a religious perspective. He's talking about people who are already doing the commandments and they want to move to work on their intention, things like that. Is there a special reason why he sets up these conditions this way? Special reason that Balaam speaks to religious people, not secular. Also Rash, that's true. I'll tell you why. There's a need for keeping the commandments in the corporeal level. We are made of two parts, a part that's called intention and a part that's called action, and we need to do it. So the part of the intention will be the dominant one, and the action will be the result of the intention, and not that. We will make you know the intentions without action. This is like an angel. It just floats around, or we'll do actions without intentions because that's a beastly action. There's nothing in it. It's like what a beast does. It's like a beast that carries out orders. Also, a person who carries out orders without the involvement of his personal desire in it is like a beast. That's why we say that a commandment without intention is like a body without a soul. So a person has to do. He writes about it in the introduction to the study of tens. You have to learn about observance of the commandments, at least from the abridged version, and to do them. And of course you have to try to refine yourself and constantly worry about the intention, because thanks to the intention you grow from below all the way up above, and until you're really in equivalence of form with the Creator, you reach the purpose of creation according to your intention. You climb the ladder of degrees, and the action remains the same action. We also see that here a young lad that comes with the age of commandments, be mitzvah, and he begins to keep certain commandments, and he observes all the commandments around him. Would you say, right, well, he's not married, so he's missing a few commandments, and his parents are alive, so he's missing a few commandments of burial, so on so forth. And you know he's not a farmer, so he doesn't have to do certain commandments, or he's not a butcher, so he doesn't. But whatever is around him, whatever is within reach, until you know about 20, 30 commandments, he does that. And if when he reaches age 70, 80, 100, he will also do the same commandments as he did when he was 13 years old and 1 day old, meaning you do the same commandments also when you're 100 years old, meaning there's no change. In that you can't grow, in that the action has to be as a foundation. It doesn't change, and therefore whatever does not change, who observes these actions is called still or inanimate of sanctity. What does it mean? It's not a beast, it's called a still degree of sanctity, inanimate. It's a foundation from which the vegetative and animate and speaking come. What does it mean? He wants to add to his commandments and to all his actions in life their intention. Why is he alive? What does he want to attain by it? What is his attitude to the purpose of creation, the Creator who placed this goal before him, and so on and so forth? Meaning we have to observe or keep what we need to do as a sort of a copy of from spirituality, projection from spirituality, the commandments. Then we need to see also what is a commandment, because many things that were added in Judaism were added over thousands of years, and they're actually customs. So every portion, every stream from the nation there has its own customs, and so on so forth. So we need to learn what belongs to commandments, and commandments is what appears in the bridge version of the set table, and that's what we need to know, and from that we need to also work on the intention and the introduction to the study of tens in the last few items, or the introduction to the Book of Zohar. He writes that the problem of our state, those who study Torah, they don't observe the commandments with intention, meaning they do not engage in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and instead of engaging in the wisdom of Kabbalah, they engage in the externality of the Torah, the external part, meaning we speak again about the people who observe the commandments, what comes to them in life that they have to keep, and other than studying Torah, then they study the external Torah by that they do not draw the lights that correct them and correct the world, as he explains to us in item 155 in Introduction to Test. That's what this thing is all about, meaning they certainly speak about those who are observing Torah and commandments, meaning according to the abridged version of the set table, minimal things, and besides that they wish to update the correct intention toward the Creator, since with the intention they climb the ladder of degrees until they begin to feel the spiritual world. Later in spirituality they climb until they reach the purpose of creation, the end of correction. That's it. And one who does not do minimum observance, he also doesn't prefer internality over externality. He doesn't have an external part, and he also doesn't do the action perfectly. The perfect action should be, let's say, 90% intention, 10% action, seemingly from the labor of man, because the action, there's really very little exertion in it. But one who doesn't do this or that, he loses on both sides, and generally speaking his action is not active properly. That's what he explains to us in the Introduction to Tests. In item 25, he explains about the relationship between commandments and actions and intentions, and also the end of the introduction to the Book of Zohar. So basically, it turns out that all of the external things we do, even in relation to studying Torah, in that you can be still. Rather, any action that a person does without an intention internally, what's he doing it for? This is an action of the still, the inanimate. But the actions themselves also prepare a person for intentions. So you can't say that one who is engaged here with some action in the group, that he doesn't advance, because first of all he advances because he's included in the group, and the group influences him with its intentions, and that's it. It's not something we could measure easily and say that's just an action and there's nothing there and there's no progress. There's barely anything like that. But certainly any action that a person makes without an intention, look, the matter is that also now you're making an action afterwards, you're making an intention, it one joins the other. It's not necessarily that while you do the action, you're activating the intention. There are actions that you can't activate intentions while you're doing them. Like if I'm now engaged in translation, or I'm activating some special software that requires my entire mind, and so in that moment, in that time, I don't have left any possibility besides just some general preparation of why I'm doing this in general. How did I come to all of these things? But essentially, in many cases, I can't have it all at once, both the intention and my work, but still they accompany each other. However, during the study, it's very important to keep it together, like you write there in item 4. Where is that? Item 4. Item 4 in Introduction to Test writes that it's very important that the intention, what am I studying for, and the study itself will be as one. And this is called the quality of the labor. What am I studying for? That's very, very important. Without it, the whole study really just doesn't bear any fruit. For 1415. 1415. No, before the student pledges. But it's like the intention. The intention is correct because I can look at it with externality. In externality, I can look only at what appears to me. That's subjective. How can I tell the correct intention? My correct intention was someone else's. How can I know my intention or someone else's? First of all, someone else's. We're not discussing that. Intention means my attitude. to the purpose of creation to the Creator, and in that I can't put myself into someone else and check how he relates to that. Also, it doesn't matter to me. I matter to me. How can I examine my intention? What I feel essentially is what I need to relate to, and one never knows what's inside his heart. It's hidden from us what's deep inside. As our heart even today, you think about yourself that you're relatively fine, almost a righteous right. If you would go deeper a bit into your heart, you would maybe think otherwise. So we have to follow what we feel. The judge has no more than his eyes to judge with, and according to that test relate to what you have to do. What does it mean when he says, because this is our lives and the length of our days, that Torah commandments is the lives and our lives and the by days of our days? Well, and then what? It's just water there, it's fine, for they are our lives and the length of our days. Yes, so means we have to reach a state that this is how a person feels, that what he receives, his life, is measured by how much light he receives from above, and the measure of his livelihood depends on his connection to spirituality from which he receives. I mean, his life is not measured by calories, right, or any other measurement like how much he earns, but only according to his connection to godliness. Okay, this is our lives, and what is the length of our days? The length of our days means with what you weigh your life, the spiritual height. Now let's share our impression from the lesson, what we take from it to apply, execute, and do. 10. The work during the week is to attain the Shabbat, that every moment a person in life weighs whether his actions are aimed at the purpose of creation, which is the goal with respect to still, vegetative, animate speaking. We have no questions. They're all righteous. Nature works on them, and they fulfill its instructions. Man cannot be complete righteous. The Creator gives him freedom, and if he fills that freedom with the Creator's desire, then he's called a righteous, and otherwise a wicked. Relation to the purpose of creation and the Creator. That attitude determines if you're righteous or wicked. He also talked about the intention, that you have to maintain the intention, especially during the study. During the study, the intention in this study must be together. It's very important. It's the quality of the labor. Yeah, I've said that from the point of view of the action, everyone can appear the same, but with respect to the intention, everyone according to his deficiency. He works, and we have to increase the intention, which is the action, spirituality. He said that the intention itself, what is the intention? The attitude of a person to the Creator, to the purpose of the create of creation, and also the main thing is that the main spiritual ascent is by core correcting the intention, not changing the external action. You have to be meticulous about the intention, and maybe I repeat what friends already said. Raf said that there are two levels, corporeal and spiritual, and on the corporeal level, the righteous and the wicked are measured by the action that determines everything in our world, and on the spiritual level, what determines is the intention, and in terms of the action, one who is already measured by the intention, then, of course, they could be righteous by action, but the intention is, of course, much more important. And also about Shabbat said that it's the end of correction, and it's a result of the work of the entire week, and a person needs to weigh his actions every moment whether they are aimed at the purpose of creation. To repeat what friends said, what I have left over from reading the article is that it's a matter of this bad feeling is the posterior, because if a person prays and is immediately given what he asked for, he has no vessels to appreciate the good, so to generate this understanding that when we seemingly suffer, the purpose, and that is to build the vessels in which the Creator can bestow and fill. That was powerful to me. Yes, like the beast follows instructions, man who follows instructions without any involvement of his desire is like a beast. That's why it says a mitzvah without an intention is like a body without a soul. He writes it that we need to carry out the minimal instructions of the commandments and mostly work on the intention from below upwards until you rise to the equivalence of form with the Creator, and according to your intention you rise through the ladder of degrees. I heard that we need to observe commandments on the corporal level as it's written in the set table, But keeping these commandments should be a result of the intention. The intention does not stem from the heart, but from the point in the heart. That's how you evaluate the actions of a person according to his intention, says relative to the point in the heart. And the Creator doesn't consider our actions at all, only the intention. The intention is the action. Mean that he did, and he's doing, he will do all the deeds, and it's none but him. We have to put all our emphasis on how to develop the intention more, and as the ideal state, he said, is 10% external action and 90% intention. In the same direction, there's a special reason why Balaam turned to religious people, not to secular people, also rash, but it's because there is a need for keeping the commandments on the corporeal level. In addition to the action, we certainly have to be refined and refine ourselves and care about the intention, because through the intention you climb from below up until you're in equivalence or form with the Creator, and you come to the purpose of creation.